Hello and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Nick Brlansky, joined as always by host Nick Horwat. And the Penguins currently have a 2-1 series lead over the New York Rangers. Game 4 coming up later this evening. We will preview that game. But before we do that, let's talk about what we saw on Saturday in Game 3, the first playoff game at PPG Paints Arena in 2022. Horwat was there in action. I see the Penguins towel behind you.
Yes.
So let me know first and foremost, what was that atmosphere like at
It was
PPG Paints?
Yeah, because it was the first full capacity crowd playoff game since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the sweep year.
Yes.
And I didn't go to a game that playoffs. So it's the first playoff game I'd been to since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember if I even went to one. I don't remember going to one that series. I'm just assuming I did. But it was as electric as ever because I think a lot of this fan base does realize this could be it. We can tell just by his play on the ice, Sidney Crosby thinks this could be it. And there's confidence in this fan base right now. That was one thing that was not there definitely last season. I mean, despite not a full capacity, there was just something in something stinky in the fan base. You could just tell the confidence wasn't there, but there was something about Game 3 at PPG Paints Arena that felt different. It felt positive. The vibes were there, basically, is what I'm saying. The vibes are back for the fan base. That the fan base is aware that this might not be the cup run that we're all wanting.
Mm-hmm.
But we want something good. We want something fun to discuss over summer and maybe have these lasting memories of, like I said, what could be the end of a huge run for the core.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the end of the playoff streak, but it could be the end for the core in this town because every day it just seems more and more apparent or certain that someone's going to go. I mean, Rob Rossi said that even with the new management, the only people that are safe are Sullivan, and I'm assuming that's because he's a Boston guy, and Crosby.
And he's one of the top three coaches, in my opinion, in the National Hockey League. But continue.
Right, but we had the discussion of could his seat be getting warm because of the Mike Tomlin effect too. He had won his championships early and has won in the regular season since, but not much in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's the vibes are there. The crowd is into it. The fan base is into it. It was electric being there. I understand that I quote tweeted a fake quote. So people, I get it.
Yeah.
But the tweet kind of went off a little bit, so I'm keeping it for now. That quote but it is a good talking point. That quote though, that fake quote of chanting Igor's name at all. Teams, crowds, fan bases do that in regular season games. It's just a thing to do. It in Pittsburgh, especially. I know we've done it for years. It gets amped up a little extra in the playoffs and the postseason. I can remember us chanting Holtby's name in the series we lost. Maybe that's where it came from. That's the last time I was at a playoff game. It's something that just every fan base does. Crosby sucks chants happen at 31 other arenas in this league.
Yeah, I'm not sure one happened at Seattle this year, so maybe 30.
30. I'm sure they'll come to Climate Pledge Arena next year.
Yeah,
but just. The chanting is just a thing that happens. And, to Troll, who's a good buddy of ours, said that, the not so nice, I'll keep it clean for now. The not so nice Penguin fans were doing it after I said, buddy, we did it after puck drop. It was electric because the crowd was into it. And it doesn't help that it was the first time Igor was seeing ice after being resuscitated on the ice.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to give it to him,
Yeah.
So... And we gave it to him. And you know what it did? He gave up 4 goals. We started the chance at puck drop. At the end of 20 minutes, he was pulled.
Yeah.
For the guy who was, by the way, do you remember when Georgiev was supposed to be better than him?
Yeah. I do remember distinctly a conversation I had with Andy Hammond of the Broadway Boys podcast and just the Broadway Boys in general, him and James, saying, wow, man, Lundqvist and Georgiev, what a duo. And they were like, yeah, wait till you see the guy that's in the waiting. He's the guy. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, enjoy it. But like, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden it's just Starkin. But nonetheless, yeah, the fact that the Penguins fans came out and were rowdy from puck drop on was great to see. it had that building feeling like it did back in 2016, back in 2017, not just because of the fans, which were amazing. Let me not dispute that fact. But because of the play in that first period, the Penguins came to play, were ready to take on the Rangers in that game 3, and they got off to a great start. It helped. I do have a 5-pronged attack at how to look at this game. Let's start with Jason Zucker's return, because a lot has been Penguins losing players in this series. They finally get one back in Jason Zucker, who had missed the previous 3 games, including the last game of the regular season against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now he comes into the game. He's placed on the third line, which understandably, listen, the guy has barely skated. He had basically a half a practice to get ready for this one. So starts on the third line with Rodriguez and Carter and goes out there and does exactly what you want Jason Zucker to do. In my opinion, that is peak Jason Zucker, plus the fact that he stayed healthy, which was very nice through at least a game. Physical on guys, laid about 3 massive body checks. We haven't seen a shift similar to that. It made me think of Brooks Orpik back in against the Detroit Red Wings, where he's just hitting everything that moves, crushed Adam Fox, and then draws a penalty that leads to, I believe that led to a goal, the Evan Rodriguez goal on the power play. So the fact that Jason Zucker was able to return helped in the first place. Secondly, the fact that he was able to come in and immediately be that Energizer Bunny was amazing to see for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and was huge in getting that momentum on their side early in the first.
Yeah, I can say with confidence that no matter which penalty it was, a goal was scored.
Yeah.
All 3 of the Rangers penalties, a goal was scored, whether it was the 2 for the Penguins or that 1 to tie it, which you want to talk about taking the air out of the building.
Yeah.
They did it. Chris Letang helped a lot with that. But you know what? It was, and I think Louis Domingue put it perfectly in his little post-game talk with Dan Potash, that it was like 3 games were played.
Yeah.
First period was a whole game in itself. Second period was the Rangers game, and the third was the Penguins, because they turned it back on in that third period. And I just put a piece out again. For the love of God, how long has this been biting us in the ass? Play the full 60.
Not even that, but just don't play as poorly for an entire 20 minutes, because It's not that they played not so great in the second. They were awful. They were back to the team that we saw in the last couple of weeks in the regular season, where they couldn't get a damn thing going. And Louis Domingue, hung out to dry as he was, he couldn't make a save. So nothing was going right for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the second period. They had only 24% of the expected goals at 5-on-5. That's pathetic. That's not even taking into account the Penguins power play, which gave up that goal that you mentioned to Andrew Kopp, who was able to just sit in front of the crease with nobody there to bunt it in the net. That's what I think got me the most. Not the fact that Chris Letang turned the puck over, not the fact that he had a perfect form tackle in front of Mike Tomlin, who was in the front row, but the fact that Andrew Kopp was able to sit there, wait patiently for that puck to gently come down out of the air and just bunt it in. Malkin, Gensel, Crosby, Rust, where were they? Where were they? Because not only did they not come back to begin with to come help out Chris Letang, but they weren't going to come back whenever he turned the puck over. There was a solid 6 seconds that you could have been closer. I didn't like the effort on that play. I didn't like the effort by the Penguins power play to begin with, but realistically, luckily, like you said, they got back to business in the third period.
Oh, did they? Yeah, that second period, I mean, we just took our foot off the gas completely. I don't know how else to put it, because the Rangers pulled within 1. They were down 3. They pulled within 1 before the Penguins got a shot off.
Yeah.
It was bad, because I kept looking at the score at the scoreboard, looking at the shots, and I went, we haven't gotten a shot on goal yet, and we're up by 1.
Entire first 9 minutes of that period, there was not a single shot by the Penguins.
Yeah, it was about halfway through. Chad Ruhwedel finally got one on, and quite honestly, I looked up again and went, we got 2? When did we get 2? So they weren't obviously solid shots on goal either.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the foot was just off the gas. We were letting the Rangers control the play, and that's not something you could do against a team like the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
They have the firepower. They have the skill. They have the ability to make you regret pulling the foot off the pedal for even 5 minutes, because you don't know when that mountain's going to just be too high to climb. Yeah. Let's say that this was the first period they did this. They scored 3 goals in the first. Who knows if we're able to score 3, because they can shut it down. Sturkin is still in net. they can just stop you from scoring.
That's what happened in the second game of the regular season. The Rangers got out to a 3-0 lead in the first 10 minutes, and the Penguins couldn't respond. They just couldn't. Now, they didn't have Malkin in that game and yada, 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 and whatever. But nonetheless, it is a very different game when the Rangers have a 3-goal lead versus when the Penguins have a 3-goal lead. And that's what we've seen in this series.
Yeah, and let's even say they slip up and they have the 1-goal lead after 2. Let's say it's 5-4 at the end of 2. Who knows if that mountain's too high to climb? It's the playoffs, and 20 minutes is not a ton of time, but also a lot of time, but it just depends. And with the Rangers, I mean, that's not a ton of time. You need as much time as possible to build off your lead. We were lucky that it was only 4-4. We were lucky that Sidney Crosby and the Penguins were able to roll back out and just dominate that third period. That third game, if you will, in Louis Dominguez's eyes.
In my opinion, the third period to me was more impressive than the first period for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They did play. I think they played better in the fact that obviously they were converting on all their chances. Obviously they were dominating all of the chances. But in that third period, the adversity there was more impressive to me. And also to Mike Sullivan, who said this after the game.
And one of the discussions we had with the guys was just that it's not always going to go the right way. And the other team's going to push, and we're going to get on our heels, and we're going to get scored against and give up, maybe give up a lead, whatever it may be. That stuff happens in hockey. It doesn't always go your way. What's most important is how you react to it. And that, for me, is the biggest takeaway from tonight. Obviously, we didn't love the second period. But the fact that we were able to respond the way we did in the third, for me, I couldn't be more proud of the team.
When you look at that third period, first and foremost, you come into it shorthanded. You kill off the last 30 seconds for a penalty kill that had not been doing good. I mean, coming into this game, the New York Rangers were converting at 40% on the power play in this series, 2 for 5. But the fact they were able to kill that first penalty, then kill 2 more in a row in the first, 7 minutes of the period, including a really bad offensive zone penalty taken by Danton Heinen.
Yeah.
That in itself was impressive. Then, of course, you have the big save by Louis Domingue on Artemi Panarin, who had beat him from that spot in the second period, comes over, makes a big shoulder save, and right away, down to the other end, Malkin with a huge play to take the puck away from the New York Rangers defenseman. Good forecheck there. And then Danton Heinen just sliding it right past Alexander Georgiev, and the Penguins take the lead. That whole 10-minute sequence, first and foremost, playoff hockey is not good for the physical health of people that are this invested. I have a knot in the back, in the center of my back, that has been there since that third period. I've been trying to get it out. But that is how tense that situation is when you give up that 4-1 lead and then have 3 straight penalty kills that you have to kill off against a really good Rangers power play. But they were able to do it, able to get the lead, and then, of course, as we'll continue to discuss, able to get the 2-1 series lead.
Yeah, those were huge, huge, huge penalty kills. And I think that may have been a big part of swinging the momentum, because you can't have your best players on the ice when you're killing penalties. You could, but it's not going to be the same because they're going to be playing defense. I think that's been a gripe that the Leafs have seen a lot recently, is that their best players don't kill penalties. So guys like Matthews, Marner, they're not on the ice in the penalty kill. For the Penguins, Rust is out there killing penalties, but Crosby's not. Malkin's obviously not going to. We can't take penalties because that takes away from their ice time. So if you want your top guys on the ice, you have to stay out of the box. And this is a whole conversation, not even bringing into the fact how good of a power play the Rangers have. It was top 10 in the league, right?
It was number 4 in the National Hockey League this year.
Yeah.
Chris Kreider had 26. He was almost a 30-goal scorer on the power play.
Yeah, we went over it. I just forgot where it stood. That's stupid. And you can't let that team, let those guys, let that group be on the ice that often, especially when they're going to have the extra body. It's not ideal at all. But if you're able to kill it off, that's important. That's huge. And that's exactly a big reason why the momentum swung back into the Penguins' favor in that third period. Playing solid defense, slowing the game down. Second, we went up 4-1. I just kept thinking, just slow the game down, please.
Ooh.
I know these guys don't like playing like that. They hate it. But that's when the mistakes get made. So if you're able just to slow it down, still try and play the faster game, but just take your time a little more.
Yeah.
That's where the less mistakes will get made. The odds of turnovers or letting up goals is going to happen. I just think that's going to be super important if we catch another multi-goal lead like that. Just slow it down a little bit. Take your time a little more.
Yeah. My dad actually texted me in the first intermission and he said, man, that was fun, wasn't it? And I just sent him back a picture of Erod first and foremost, which we'll get to in a minute. And then secondly, I said, yes, but I want more. Like, do not rest on your laurels. That's exactly what they ended up doing. That's why the game ended up 4-4. That's why I have a big knot in the center of my back right now. But nonetheless, the Penguins still come out of it with the 2-1 series lead. What I think was the most impressive part of that third period, and we saw it early on in the season this year, the defensive play by the Penguins was absolutely phenomenal. Allowing only 6 shots when you had 2.5 penalties to kill in that period. Not only that, you outchanced the New York Rangers 14-4 in a lot of people said this, I disagreed, in a must-win third period in the playoffs. Some people were saying this might be the series. I disagree because it's only a 2-1 lead. But nonetheless, it is a pivotal third period, and the Penguins came out, like I said, outchanced them 14-4, only gave up 6 shots on goal. Fantastic job insulating Louis Domingue, who has struggled a little bit in the last couple of games when it comes to keeping the puck out of the net, but nonetheless, a great team performance at the end of game 3, which is why we sit where we are right now with a 2-1 lead.
I can see where people are coming from in that being the most important third period and probably the most important game. I usually stand by that game 3 is the most important game, because it's the switch of home ices. In any record or any standing of it, like 0-2, 1-1, 2-0 through the first 2, it's a deciding game. You lose game 3 after being up 2-0, well, depending on the home ice, even it's a different game. It's going to be that same crowd in game 4. It could swing even more into that momentum. 1-1, like it was that third game, it starts to pull away, especially in the Penguins' favor when it's the home team that wins that game 3. It's going to be that same crowd in game 4.
Yeah.
They can pull up 3-1, and it's a much different series. I mostly rely on game 3 being the most important, if not up there. Game 4 is a huge one, too. It does depend on the series, always.
Yeah.
But I think game 3 could be a decider, though, if we're able to perform very well in game 4.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you to the point of, like, especially if you look at a team that lost 2 games on the road to start a series. I mean, look at Philadelphia in the NBA. They came back to that game 3, massive win over Miami. All of a sudden, now the series is tied because they took that momentum into game 4 to bring it back into hockey. Same thing with the Boston Bruins. They were down 2-0. They got crushed in both games down in Raleigh in games 1 and 2. Come back to TD Garden in game 3, big win. Came back in game 4, big win. All of a sudden, they're tied up and they have all the momentum in the world going back down to Raleigh. For the Penguins, of course, it is a little different, like you mentioned, a 1-1 series, but the opportunity, think about how we feel right now. I'm assuming you feel the same way. That confidence that this fan base now has in this team, that confidence that team has to have after facing that adversity, plus the adversity in game 1, it's such a big momentum shifter because now you get to the latter stages of a series and you have that leg up and you have that momentum in your favor. Not to mention the fact that game 4, like you said, right back in that same arena. We looked at what happened on Sunday. All 4 series are now knotted up at 2. We'll see what happens tonight. Obviously, the Colorado series is basically over. They're already up 3-0, but the other 3 series going on tonight, it's a 2-1 series. We'll see if those follow suit. A couple more things to talk about. Let's start with Evan Rodriguez, because whether you call him Evan Godriguez, whether you say it's the resurrection of Godriguez, or if you're just saying, listen, like I said, he's been playing really well all series long. He just finally got the opportunity to finish. And once he did that, 2 goals and an assist. I still think it's 3 goals. I've watched that Jeff Carter supposed goal in the first period over and over again. There's no way he ever touched that puck. So I'm going to say he has a hat trick in that game. What did you think of Evan Rodriguez's performance?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Because, first of all, what a play by Brian Boyle. I'm going to start there. That Rodriguez's second/third goal. I'm gonna hold on to second because there's no way Shesterkin didn't throw it off of Carter's leg.
It looked like, see, to me, and I don't want to belabor this fact, but to me, it looked like it was in his glove. His glove hit Jeff Carter's leg, and then the puck scored it out.
You know, as a Vezina winning goalie, you got to have that.
Well, yeah, nonetheless. Nonetheless, he should have saved it.
Yeah, but it was that point. It was that goal where I really was like, this is the Evan Rodriguez we've been missing. The one who's finding the open space. Mm-hmm. That's what he did. He found that open space and just knew exactly what to do with it. Yeah. It looked like a Evan Rodriguez goal that we saw all throughout the first half of the season. Found his open space, and you just knew that it was on his stick. You looked at it and you said, it's in. Just get up. Like, start cheering now because it's already in and it's still on a stick. That's how that goal felt. Mm-hmm. It was taken like a great start of the play from Boyle straight to Evan Rodriguez, who just immediately was, yep, we know it's in. Yeah. We just know it. That's what we've been missing here. And I'm not so certain it's going to come back for the rest of the series just because everyone can pop off for a game. Even Kapanen popped off for a game this season. But the fact that he has been playing very well to start the series and that he's being rewarded for it here in game 3, at bare minimum, if he can keep playing well, I like it. He'll get rewarded again eventually. We just got to stay in, and we have to keep doing stuff with it. So I'm pretty confident in him. Again, I still don't expect too much anymore, given the downfall, but it's good that he was able to help contribute to a huge win, especially now.
For me, and I know you mentioned that fourth goal of the game where Brian Boyle set him up, and that was a laser of a shot, stuff that we did see early on in the season. I loved the goal he scored right before that. Not only did he create that space, coming into the zone with speed, cutting into the middle, taking that shot. He might have missed the net. I understand that. But the ability and the sense to follow your shot up is something that sometimes it's so simple, but a lot of people just don't do it. He followed it up. The puck luckily went through like 8 players.
Including Shesterkin. Came right back out to him, and guess what he does? He doesn't miss a second time. That is so vastly important. It's what I was mentioning in games 1 and 2 about Evan Rodriguez's play is he's making the smart plays. He's doing the right things, and eventually it's going to pay off. Period 1 of game 3, it paid off with a 3-point outburst in the first 20 minutes, and it was obviously the driving factor to the Pittsburgh Penguins getting a massive game 3 victory. Lastly, before we head to break and then come back and talk a little bit about the injured Penguins, talk a little bit about tonight's game 4, how do you think Louis Domingue has done to this point? Quite honestly, not the best. It could also just be the defense in front of him not being all the way there.
Yeah.
Domingue has done what he could. Honestly, it's kind of what I expected from him. I mean, he's given up 9 goals. It's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot.
In 2 games.
That's a lot. That's not ideal. You don't want to be the team that has to outscore their problems. Mm-hmm. Especially when how faulty our bottom 6 can be. I mean, I don't like it. Yeah. I think he's played okay. He's played well enough. Obviously, we're getting victories.
Yeah.
But now when you look at the pure numbers of it and you don't look at the scores or anything else, he's facing a ton of shots and he's making the correct amount of saves. It's solid enough. But let me pull up the game log. 32 saves on 36 shots in game 3. Now I get what he did in game 1 was huge. Understand that.
Yeah.
But then making 35 on 40 in game 2, he's facing a ton of shots, and that's part of the issue here because he is a third-string goalie. He spent most of the year in the AHL. These are different shots he's facing. Mm-hmm. Sure, he's an NHL goalie, but he was an NHL goalie before, but he hasn't seen that kind of time in a while.
Yeah.
I think if we were to keep him in longer term, or if he was the backup all season, I think I'd have a little more confidence in him. I think he'd be able to be a little smarter on things. It's not that he's a wild goalie, but every now and again you catch him just being all over the place.
He drifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sporadic. It's not as common as, say, a young Fleury. But you see him, fighting to get back into position a good amount, especially if you really pay attention to it. But he's been solid. It's just you don't want to see him giving up 9 goals in 2 games, and it's okay to be a little worrisome about it.
Yeah.
because you don't want to be the team that has to outscore their problems, especially in the playoffs, especially against a Vezina winner that you may have chased, but still. I think it's going to be difficult, but I think he's going to be able to maintain at least 1 to 2 more games. I think he's going to keep catching up to the speed as we go on. I'm feeling okay about it. And that was my long way of saying I'm feeling okay about all of it.
Yeah. Before I say anything else, in the middle of that, you're not going to get away with it. I caught it and I'm going to bring it up. Did you say young Fleury was calm?
I said he was sporadic,
Okay.
all over the place, like a young.
It sounded like you said calm like a young Fleury. I said those words don't. That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. But nonetheless, it was just a mishearing thing, I guess.
I may have said it wrong too, but you get what I'm going for. I'm saying he's not as bad as young Fleury and being just everywhere.
Yeah.
But he definitely has those moments of fighting to get back. There were a couple of moments I saw in Game 3 where he was genuinely just desperation, leg pumping to get to the other post.
Yeah.
And it looked scary, but part of this, and I somehow failed to mention this in my long rant about being okay, the defense has to shape up in front of them.
It does, and it did in the third period, and then still you need to make a save at some point, and he was able to do that. So if he can just do that, especially if he's keeping them in the game to begin with, then that's perfectly fine for now. It's not sustainable by any means, but when you look at his overall numbers, in the 3 games he's played, obviously a 2-1 record, but only a .903 save percentage and a 4.03 goals allowed average. That's not nearly good enough to continue to go forward against different teams. But the fact of the matter is, right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins, they have outplayed the Rangers enough to where they can have that and still find success. For Louis Domingue, though, obviously you need more from him. But when you look at him, how much can you ask of this guy? I don't want to harp on being mean on this guy because he is enjoying himself. He is doing what he needs to do. And the Penguins have a 2-1 series lead. So it's working out, not to mention the fact that the shadow of Tristan Jarry is growing larger and larger as time goes on. But nonetheless, I have a quote here from him. It just sounds like he's having fun. It sounds like he's enjoying his time. And how can you not root for a guy like that? Here's Louis Domingue after the Game 3 victory.
I try to shut everything down, try to play this as it's just another game and it's just another day. At the end of the day, we're playing hockey. From the moment I brought my net outside in the street and put my rollerblades on and played outside and have, cars go around my net. This is the film I was playing in my head the whole time, So even if it's new to me, this is, like I said, this is a film that I've been playing in my head for a long time. So I'm trying to control my emotions. It's pretty hard, to be honest. It's so new and it's a lot. It's a lot, but we're gonna take it a day at a time and move on. Like, we're gonna enjoy tonight, and then tomorrow is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. But we're gonna just move on to the next game.
Gonna echo that sentiment first and foremost from Louis Domingue. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, especially both of ours. We thank them for all that they've done. But it sounds like a guy that's enjoying his time being the starter, but knows that he has a job to do. And like he said, he's been playing that in his head for the longest time, since back when he was playing street hockey, like all of us. When he said that, I just thought back to the amount of times that you would just hear, "Car!" And then you just take everything down, pauses the entire game, and then the goalie just shuffles back out to the middle of the road, sets it down, and you continue. It took me back to my childhood. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about for Louis Domingue. Clearly, we'd like to see a better performance, but he's making the big saves when he needs to, and he's not letting the pressure get to him, which is a massive, massive thing for a goaltender in this situation. So I'm fully behind Louis Domingue, but I would like to see his numbers get elevated in Game 4 tonight.
There's no way there wasn't someone in that room not smiling when he's talking, by the way.
You heard people giggling when he said stuff.
The entire time, like from the memories of playing street hockey to it's the film that's in your head to the Mother's Day shout out to I'm just playing my game. All of that. How are you not just sitting with the biggest smile on your face? Win or lose, really. Like,
yeah.
He is at least a driving factor of positivity in this locker room. He's going to bring the vibes in the locker room, not just to the crowd. He's just a joy to have as a person on the team.
Mhm.
We wish he was a little better at stopping a couple of more pucks, but you know what? Thank you for just being a sweetheart on this team. You know what I mean? Thank you for just keeping the mood light. Was that second period awful? Yes. But you know what? He was able just to talk about being a kid again. Like, what are you? Okay, love it. Thank you for just the positivity that genuinely it's a breath of fresh air in the playoffs, because it's Louis Domingue out here talking about just playing as a kid again, taking full advantage of his opportunity and doing his job.
Mhm.
And then there's, I don't want to say Sid's a bad interview person, but in the playoffs sometimes he can just buckle it down and just straight answer,
Mhm.
because that's all hockey guys do. Then there's Louis, just enjoying his time here. He's going to be here for the rest of the playoffs, that's for damn sure, regardless of starting or not. But it's fun. He's just fun having around. There's no way you can't smile when he talks, even in the Dan Potash presser.
Yeah.
I think just presser and that little interview just before he really even got an answer, and he's shouting into the mic, "Let's go Pens." It's the small things that this guy is doing that can get a fan base behind him and a team can get behind. For the love of God, stop a few pucks in front of him, because he's not going to stop all of them. No offense to him. Great guy. Phenomenal guy from these interviews.
Yeah.
But he's not a starting caliber goalie for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
he's
gotta
getting the
figure it
job.
out.
Yeah, he's getting the job done, but let's not mistake him for a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky. Let's help him out a little bit. And part of that is going to be getting some guys back in the lineup, whether that be Tristan Jarry, or if Jari's not back, getting guys like Raquel and Dumoulin. We'll talk about their returns and their updated injury statuses right after this break. This is the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network. Well, Horwat, we broke down game number 3, which means we're currently up to date and now at game number 4. It's interesting because they're not going to get anybody back tonight. It was nice to get Jason Zucker back on Saturday. Nobody's coming back into the lineup tonight, unfortunately, just because that's where the 3 injured players currently stand. We're going to break down and actually ask a very interesting question. Not that any of these guys are not vastly important, because all 3 of the guys that are currently injured for the Penguins play major roles in this team's success and will play a major role in this team's success if and when they return from injury. But might as well rank them, because this is for entertainment. So let's rank these players by the importance to the Penguins. And then at the end of this, ask, can the Penguins win a series without them? I'll start really quickly. We're going to run down our 3, and then we'll get into it deeply afterwards. I think the most important person is obviously Tristan Jarry. We talked in the last segment about how important it is that Louis Domingue continues and starts to improve his play as the series goes on. He's been great thus far. He's held down the fort, but they need a little bit more. Tristan Jarry is 100% the most important injured player right now to the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's their starting goaltender. He was in Vezina conversations halfway through the season. He was an all-star this year. I love Domingue, but you give up 5 and 4 goals respectively. You need a little bit more, and understandably, that's going to come with their starting goaltender. Currently, Jarry is day-to-day with that lower body injury, but he is skating in full gear on his own, not taking shots as of right now. Secondly, I have Brian Dumoulin. Dumoulin is also day-to-day with a lower body injury. The weird thing with him is he has yet to even skate. He's yet to be back on the ice. So we really don't know what's going on with him since he went down in game 1 with that lower body injury. But fortunately enough, it's been long enough that it's not like he had a season-ending surgery and they're just waiting to announce it like they did with the Smith. So there's a chance that he could return despite being day-to-day and not coming back onto the ice yet. And then third, I have Raquel, of course, upper body injury, head injury. He is skating with skills coach Ty Hennis a couple of the past days. He was the only Penguin on the ice on Sunday. So I have Jarry, Dumoulin, Raquel. What's your 3? You're muted.
I am muted. Sorry, they're cutting grass outside my window, so I have to mute when I can. And I was thrown off by a DM. But yes, I have that same exact order. I mean, Jari's skating as we speak, so he's making
Yeah.
his progress. That's going to be huge for this team. Like we just talked about Louis Domingue, he's a good backup. He's going to be a
Yes.
good backup for the playoffs. Dumoulin, just because sure he hasn't been great down the stretch, but someone to kind of bring the defense back a little bit, shut it down, make it a bit more of a consistent lineup in there. Because quite honestly, as much as we love Mark Freeman, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done what we've expected of him.
Yeah.
Per se. He hasn't, to the extent at least. I just don't recall him attempting to get under people's skin. So that's kind of where you lose me a little, because that's what we've been wanting from him whenever he got into the playoffs. We want him to get under everyone's skin and be the pest. We haven't seen it too much. So it's not
but I think he's played well.
He's played fine, yeah.
In those games, he has over 50% of the expected goals. You know, he's the expected goals god, as he was deemed in the regular season. He's playing good defensively. He's also not playing very much. I think he has on average like 11 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed about game 2. Or even game 3. I just kept looking around, just said I have not seen 52 that often, and I haven't looked at the times of it. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like he's getting the ice time either.
Yeah.
And then Raquel, as much as he is fun to watch and is important to have on in the forward core. I mean, should still be up with Crosby, but so be it. I mean, we know this first line works. We have other guys. We do. It's not ideal in the contract year in the way I think I wanted Raquel to be an X factor in the series, but the fact that he's skating is a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know he's probably going to come back about the same time as Jari, it seems.
Yeah.
I think it's huge that he will be back, but we have other skaters. Your forward core is your biggest depth group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always is. You have guys that can fill in. We have a team that can do it. Especially if that bottom 6 starts to get going, like we just saw.
Yeah.
Sure, 2 on the power play. Don't care. Bottom 6 is doing something, because especially in the playoffs, I don't care how they score it. They scored it.
Yes.
Much like that empty netter that almost went in, that Evan Rodriguez almost put in.
Oh,
First of all, he almost ended the life of 18,000 people. Secondly,
more than that.
Yeah. Secondly, that puck goes in. You know what we're not talking about? First of all, probably Penguins win. But second, the Rangers definitely aren't asking how. They're asking how many. So in with the power play goals and power play points in the playoffs, especially, I'm not asking how. I'm asking how many, because are they converting to wins? So far, yes.
Yeah.
So even if the bottom 6 is scoring on the power play, if they can do it and gain momentum for themselves, big enough for me.
Yeah, I think that just underscores the importance of all 3 of these guys, that Raquel is ranked 3rd. I think he will probably be the guy that returns fastest from injury. I know it's a big head injury. It was a massive hit. It didn't look good. But nonetheless, the fact that he's been on the ice with that type of injury, I know he's not taking contact yet, is a good sign. And the fact that he's constantly been on the ice, which means he hasn't been facing any setbacks. But nonetheless, all 3 of these guys, very, very important for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, let me ask you this. If they don't get any of them back, which might not happen in this series, do you still think the Penguins can take down the Rangers?
I do think so.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I'd totally forgotten about, but this is Igor Shesterkin's first playoff series.
Yes.
As a starter.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. That's huge, and something that really not that no one discussed enough because of the season he had, but that's way bigger than people give credit for, especially in a goalie mindset. This is a different thing now. No one was shouting your name during the regular season. I mean, you were giving up only 1 goal in our arena. You had a good game 1. I mean, you had almost a record-breaking game 1, but you still lost. To game 2, where you shut it down. Very good. Yeah, Crosby still scored on you, but he's on a mission. Ain't not much you could do about that, Igor. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then you also died on the ice. We're so happy you're back. We love that. We don't want to see anyone get hurt or, pass away on the ice. It's just not good. And then game 3, puck drop. Your name's getting shouted. Welcome to away game playoff hockey. Different atmosphere.
Yeah.
I totally did not realize that this is his first series. Totally forgot about it. So the fact that the crowd was able to I'm not going to say the crowd took him out of the game, but the fact that the crowd was able to be at the game and maybe have a factor there.
Yeah.
It's taking him out of it a little bit. So that's something to really focus on. Sure, we can't outscore our problems against the Vezina winner, but if we can get a huge game in game 3 from the offense or game 4, it's different. He's learning it now.
And here's the big thing for this game. It is Igor Shesterkin's revenge. He got pulled in game 3 and multiple times just in the past couple of years. We don't even need to go the whole way throughout NHL history. When a goaltender of that caliber gets pulled in a game, he comes back and normally plays very, very well to exceptional in the following outing. So I don't expect anything less than the Vezina goaltender to be in between the pipes for the New York Rangers. Shesterkin is going to have a great game tonight. If he doesn't, I'll be vastly surprised, because even though he gave up 4 goals in the first period and was yanked in game 3, he is still top 2, potentially number 1 goaltender in the National Hockey League, in the world right now. He's going to come back and he's going to play a massive role in this game and honestly the rest of the series. I don't think you're ever going to see Shesterkin as shaken as he was in game 3, period 1, other than when Jeff Carter accidentally, ran into him when he purposely ran into him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was bad.
We all know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big key tonight, is to see how the Penguins can respond to Shesterkin's obviously probably dominance.
Yeah.
I really think that that's my feel on tonight's game, is that Igor Shesterkin is going to be at the very tippy top of his game, and it's going to be very, very difficult for the Penguins to beat him.
No, I mean, that's very possible. But again, if they did it in game 3, I'm assuming they're going to do it in game 4. The second that puck drops, they're going to be shouting Igor, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, but I love the fact that the Penguins fans are into it. I don't think that's shaking him. I really don't.
No, but when it's sustained and whenever that shouting goes on and then you give up 4.
Yeah.
I mean, goalies are heady people.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw Igor Shesterkin skate toward the Penguins and not off the ice after that last regular season meeting.
Yeah. I'm keeping that meme. I have that video. I'm keeping it in my back pocket. I see a lot of people posting it. I'm keeping it in my back pocket. I'm not saying anything yet because, like I said, I have a feeling he's going to be very, very good the rest of this series.
Probably, but still.
But nonetheless, I mean, it's the same thing with 2013 wild card game. Johnny Cueto drops that ball. It was not the fans that caused him to drop that ball. It's Johnny Cueto. It was the moment. It was the fact that he accidentally dropped the ball, and the fact that the fans were there. It adds to it, and it makes it a storyline. I don't think that the Penguins fans are in Igor's head. I think he's fine. Nonetheless, it is still vastly important that they bring that energy, whether that be shouting Igor or just bring that energy, because you saw what it did to the Penguins. That I do think makes a difference. You saw the way they came out in that game. You saw how Jason Zucker responded by absolutely leveling Adam Fox. That's what the Penguins need. They need the fans to be on that bullshit from second one, from warm-ups on, because if that happens, the Penguins will get out to a similar start, which is another massive factor in tonight's game. They need to come out guns a-blazing the way they did in game 3.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think we can keep it up. I have full confidence in the team. It's going to be – the crowd will be there. We know it. We got to take full advantage of the series.
So – before we move on and head over to our Pens poll, which is how we'll finish off this episode, I want to ask you this, Horwat. What is the formula for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight to win Game 4 and take a 3-1 series lead?
Get up early. Don't let off the pedal. I think those are going to be 2 huge things. If you want a quick update, they're not from teammates, but Tristan Jarry is now facing shots.
Well, that's very encouraging.
Yes. Andy Chiodo's rifling shots at him. So,
man, if he comes back on Wednesday for Game 5, you will not hear the end of me, because I've been saying Game 5 for about a week and a half now. So I'll be very happy. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a little too soon. But the fact that he's facing shots now is another step in the right direction.
Yeah, but the big formula for Game 4, quite honestly, is going to be taking full advantage of your home ice, getting up early, getting multi-goal leads early, because we've already seen it. The Rangers are a team that can attack and get back at you, and not taking your foot off the pedal. That's the biggest one for me, is just making sure you're driving the entire game. Don't let the Rangers take the seat, because if they do, you don't know how high of a mountain they can create for you, because it's the postseason, and if it's later in the game, you don't know if you'll have the time to climb it. It's going to be important to get up early and hold on to the momentum and hold on to the lead and keep the crowd in it.
For me, I think the biggest thing, and I do like what you're saying there, but we have seen in this series that both teams have been able to come back from multi-goal deficits. The Penguins did it back in game 1 when they were down 2-0. They scored 2 in the second period. The Rangers, like we mentioned in game 3, down 4-1, made it 4-4 before the Penguins pulled back away. I think the big thing in this game is going to be, once again, I'm hammering this home every time, special teams. The Penguins have given up more, the first unit, I should say, because the second power play unit's been great. The Penguins' first unit has given up more goals in this series than it has scored. That is never, ever acceptable in the Stanley Cup playoffs, let alone with 2 to 3 potential Hall of Famers in your lineup on your power play. The Boston Bruins put out a power play yesterday of 5 forwards, and they did not give up nearly the amount of chances that the Penguins have given up with one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, Chris Letang, back there. They need to not just, even if they don't score, they need to take those power plays and create momentum, because we saw in game number 3 what happens when you don't. It bit the Rangers in the butt immediately. Danton Heinen scored right after that. That ended up being the game-winning goal. So the Penguins, I loved what I saw from the penalty kill. Keep that going, but also the power play. Get something going. It doesn't have to be a goal, but get some shots on goal, create a little momentum, and get some sustained offensive zone pressure, because that's something that the Penguins have not been able to do at all in this series with the man advantage.
Isn't it weird saying that, even though we scored 2 power play goals?
Yep. Well, Evan Rodriguez is
that
a
second
god.
unit.
That's why.
That second unit,
Yep.
it's something different. I agree with you. You're right. The special teams does have to get better and be better. But hey, if the second unit is going to drive momentum, someone's going to drive it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you don't want to have to rely on that. And also the shorthanded goals. The shorthanded goals are pathetic. The effort that I've seen from Evgeny Malkin defensively on the power play, which is something you shouldn't even have to worry about, has been pathetic. Well, I think Malkin's done a lot better than people give him credit for in this series as a whole, especially at 5-on-5. But in those situations where the puck's going the other way on the power play, he has not been able to get back. He hasn't shown the effort to get back. But realistically, at the end of the day, the whole unit needs to be better.
No, I couldn't agree more. You're right. The whole unit does need to be better. We got to maintain shorthanded goals and build momentum with our first unit. The second unit can do it. That's great. But it's the main guys that'll get a crowd behind you.
Yes. Yeah. The goals from Crosby, the goals from Gensel, the goals from the Malkins of the world. Anytime Malkin scores one of those slap shot goals from the wing on the power play, that I think boosts the Penguins' ego and just their morale and vibe way more than Crosby tipping one in front, way more than Gensel tipping one in front. It's almost like how Patrick Hornqvist goals used to get the people going back in 2017 and 2016. You just need to get anything, even if it's not a goal. I'm just imploring that it's better than it has been before.
Right. I'm with you.
We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to have our weekly Pens poll, because we asked last week how the series will play out. You answered. We have a couple people to rule out in that regard, but other than that, we'll talk about it after the break. So, in that commercial break, and we won't talk on this too long because this is a Penguin show.
Oh, yeah, I saw this too.
New York Islanders fire head coach Barry Trotz after missing the playoffs this season. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, Lou, what are you doing? This guy, I understand it was a very bad season for them. But they turned it around, first of all. Second of all, look at the beginning of the season. COVID issues. Didn't play in a home game until, a month and a half into the season. And then still almost made the playoffs. Still were the last team out. This is also a coach that took you to back-to-back Stanley Cup semifinals. Oh, what is you doing up there on Long Island? What is going on? I don't understand that at all. I really don't. Like that is shocking to me.
Who needs a defensive-minded coach?
No, not us. Please no.
No,
Like,
not
I
us.
don't need that. But like, I'm trying to think of who's going to have a head coaching. Philly.
Oh,
Philly should hire Barry Trotz. They
Yes, he
haven't.
should.
They just said that Mike Yo's not coming back. That's where he should go.
oh yeah. Because you know how many revenge games he's gonna get?
All of them. Washington, Islanders, and the Penguins. He'll have all of the not the Penguins. Why did I say the Penguins? He doesn't have any. He already exacted
He got
his
his
revenge on the
revenge game.
Penguins
Yeah, he got his
2 of
revenge
the
game.
last 3 years. But Islanders and the Capitals. But like that, it just doesn't make sense to me. I figured I'd bring it up to start this segment.
It doesn't. Also, it's 3 of the last 4 years. You had to remember that Capitals run.
Yeah, I mean, well,
He's got his revenge on. He doesn't need any more
yeah.
revenge on
I
us.
thought you were talking about with the Islanders, but like, what is that?
That was his
then?
real revenge on us.
19, 20, 20. He's had 4 seasons. 2 of them he went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the other one you lost in the second round after sweeping the Penguins in the first round. With lackluster talent, nonetheless. I understand he like mismanages his lineup and younger guys never get an opportunity. But like,
Who are their younger guys anymore?
I mean, technically Barzal and Beauvillier are the only ones there. But like Kiefer Sherwood was never given an opportunity, I believe is who I'm thinking of. Kiefer Bellows.
For Bellows, yeah.
Kiefer Bellows. But no, that's surprising to me. But nonetheless, let's move on and talk about our Pens poll. We simply asked last week, how does this series play out? Let us know. Pens in 6 or 7 is both the spectrum where we lied on. We both said Pens in 7 last Monday on our episode. We were part of the 44% that won this poll here. Pens in 6 or 7 was what everybody took. And right now, that is probably, if you looked at DraftKings, the show sponsor, that's probably where the money is lying right now. That's probably where the odds are. Rangers in 6 or 7 was the second place winner there. 26% of the vote got that. Rangers in 4 or 5 got third place with 23. And all I'm going to say to that is 23% of you are dead wrong already. See ya. Bye. And Pens in 4 or 5 got 7% of the vote. Pens in 4 won't happen. They will not close out tonight. They could possibly close out on Wednesday in game 5, and 7% of you will be correct. But more than likely, if the Penguins are going to win this, it's going to be in 6 or 7. So to break this down entirely, people thought either the Pens are going to win in a long series or the Rangers are going to win in quickly, or honestly, the Rangers are going to win.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Nobody thought the Penguins would win quickly, which is still an option.
Well, it is, but I don't think anybody expected that. We saw what Igor Shesterkin did in the regular season. Me totally forgetting that he hasn't played a playoff series in his career. It's huge. That's way bigger than people give it credit for, because how often do the Penguins go into a playoff series? And one of the big discussions is always, well, this team has playoff experience. The team they're playing does not. Hey, you're kind of right about that, especially now this year.
Yeah.
Shesterkin's first playoff series. Lafreniere Kako's first playoff series. Keitel's first playoff series, I would assume.
First. Adam Fox. Keandre Miller.
Yeah. It's all these guys' first playoff series.
Ryan Lindgren. Yeah, basically their entire, I remember in game 1, they were like, there's like 5 players on the Rangers that have had a playoff game before.
Kreider's
like that.
Panarin. I know Shesterkin has played in a playoff game before, but not starting in the series.
Yeah, he played in 1 game in the bubble against the Carolina Hurricanes when the Rangers were already down 2-0.
Yeah. And that was I remember that game. That was a big deal because it was probably Hank's last playoff run, and they said, nope, that many straight playoff appearances, and you're gone. Yeah, that was a dramatic game for him to play in. Oh, yeah, so it's his first playoffs in front of a crowd, too. Yes. Oh, man. I don't feel bad for him.
Well, I mean, nonetheless, the way the series has played out has been a little bit surprising. If you would have asked us last week if we thought, obviously, if we thought there was going to be a triple overtime in game 1,
where
if we thought there was going to be
come in,
a third string goalie in for the Pittsburgh Penguins, if you thought, the Pens are going to give up a 4-1 lead in 1 period after a great first period, like this has been an absolutely crazy series. In my opinion, probably the best series in the Stanley Cup playoffs up to this point. Because all the games have been close. Even though there have been multi-goal wins in games 2 and 3, they've been close.
Been close. Yeah, I think LA and Edmonton's just been wild.
It's blowout after blowout on both sides.
Yeah, blowout. That's fun. I mean,
kind of the same thing in the Toronto versus Tampa series.
Yeah. There's just a lot of drama in Boston because, of course, there is. Was Jeremy Swayman in, by the way?
Jeremy Swayman played both games 3 and 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell
me how, Sway.
What other series? What series are we missing? Oh, Dallas is just boring.
Yeah,
but they're winning.
They're winning, and Calgary once again is just shattering all my expectations.
Yeah. Oh, and the Capitals. Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Oh, I texted our buddy, the Capitals fan Tyler, and I just said they're gonna F around and win this series, aren't they?
Ovi was on a mission on Saturday. Like, I watched that game and I was like, this isn't fun. Like, they absolutely dominated the best team in hockey. They shut down the best team in hockey. We saw Huberdeau score early, and then that was it. It was phenomenal, the performance that Ilya Samsonov put out. So obviously the playoffs are a whole lot of fun. It's weird to think that it's only been a week. Like, we've only had a week of this, and it's already so deep with storylines and so deep with controversy and all sorts of fun. It's the playoffs. It's what you love to do. But it continues tonight. Penguins Rangers in Game 4. Can the Penguins take a commanding 3-1 series lead? We'll have to wait and see. We'll be back on Thursday, or maybe earlier, with some more content to talk about this series, but that's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast. We'll see you later in the week. When that will be is to be determined, but we'll see you nonetheless to break down Game 4 of Pens versus Rangers. Have a great week, Pens fans.